indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Please silence your cell phones. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda?
Madam Chair, I do not have any.
I would entertain a motion to the agenda as presented. Any questions, comments, or concerns? And all in favor? We don't have to do it, we can go all at once since Brandy's not here. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Visitor comments. Y'all have presentations, or do you have something to say beyond that?
We have a,
Thank you for attending. All right, consider the consent agenda. We have the minutes of the February 28th board meeting, monthly cash flow, including investments, monthly bills paid and activities accounts, the personnel summary sheet, and donations from the Pillager Fire Association, and is there another one? It doesn't say Office Max on the bottom of mine. And Office Max for their generous donations. It does have action down there. I get a motion to accept the consent agenda. Second? I'll second. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, school board reports with possible action. Start with the mentoring program presentation presented by Wendy Hall, Stacy Germanson, and Wade Mortensen.
Madam Chair and the rest of the board members, was it 2 years ago already, I believe, we started the mentor program between the elementary and middle school students. Yeah, middle school was last year, wasn't it? Yeah. So it went over really well, and it's just expanded. And it's, I asked these young ladies and Mr. Mortensen if they would come and share some of the things that has kind of expanded over the last couple of years and how it's been going. So they put together a presentation to share with you with what has been going on with that program. And so I'd like to have them share with you what's been going on. It's been going really well. So I don't know who your spokesperson is, if it's Ryan to start with. All right.
So what we have for you tonight is we have a video that they put together. It was a video project from our video class as well. So they went around and interviewed both Wendy and Kelly and Stacy to give you kind of a little bit of overview, but then maybe we could just do a little bit of Q&A. And then I have a data sheet too, in terms of kind of where we're at right now, preliminarily, where's our program going and how we're doing. Okay? So we'll start with that.
Thank you, sir.
Ryan, can you give me one of those two? I left mine on my desk.
Pillager has started a unique mentorship program for middle schoolers in which the middle schoolers mentor elementary kids.
We're developing our mentor program to provide an opportunity for students to positively impact other students' lives. And our goal is really to provide mentors with the leadership training in just how to build relationships and sustain relationships and positively encourage others. And in addition, we're giving them some literacy training and them the tools so that they can help support their buddy and help them grow in their literacy skills. Some of the social pieces that the students are learning are things that they can't learn in the classroom. They get to experience firsthand what it's like to be a teacher and to just care for their buddy in ways that we can't just talk about. They actually get to practice it, and it's exciting to see that they're learning those skills and are aware of how other students feel and checking in with them in the mornings, even if it's not one of their buddy times. And just being aware of how people feel in Pillager and being a part of the elementary and being one of those role models for the younger students.
Not only are the elementary kids getting something from this, but the 4th, 7th, and 8th mentors are too. They're learning responsibility among other things.
I like being a buddy because it is fun and entertaining. The kindergartners are good listeners. It has made me more responsible. It has helped me focus on getting my 4th grade work done quickly and accurately. That is why I like being a kindergarten buddy. I've gotten much more confident after being a buddy. I've enjoyed spending time with the buddies and teaching them new things. I've gotten to know them so well over the year. I recommend to other 4th graders to be a buddy next year. It is a great experience.
I would definitely recommend it. It's really fun watching the kids grow and helping them with life lessons.
I enjoy watching my buddy grow with reading and writing and just watching her grow as a person. I think that if we had more people being a mentor, then we would have less kids that needed mentoring. If the mentorship program continues to be successful, the goal is to expand to more grades.
I love seeing like the little personalities in them and seeing them grow.
Would you recommend being a mentor to anyone?
Yes. It's very fun and having a great teacher making it easier on us, and that's Miss Hall.
We're very pleased with what we are seeing as far as academic, social, and emotional growth with both our mentors and our mentees. So originally, we thought maybe we would see more of the growth with just the mentees, but really we're seeing growth with both. And so we're finding that both of the individuals are growing from this experience.
It's helped me learn patience and like kind of how to take care of certain situations.
Yeah, like patience and just being able to easily connect with them and talk to them. And it's just, they're just so fun.
It's helped me with responsibility and getting my work done in class.
I have really liked being a kindergarten buddy this year. It makes me want to complete my work so I get it done, so I get to go in the mornings. I have enjoyed spending time and getting to know my buddies. I feel so excited when they learn something new. I have loved teaching my kindergarten buddy this year.
It's so wonderful to see the connections when they walk in and their buddies run up to them, and just the relationships that they're building. And there's so much to learn from becoming a leader and becoming a mentor and knowing that you're there for someone and someone counts on you and someone looks up to you and respects you. There's so much power in that. And we're just very, very proud of the work that they're doing.
All right, so I'm wondering if what we could start with is just kind of anecdotally, just some things that you've seen kind of in the mentor program, some things that you're noticing within kids, and then I'm going to walk through some of the data that we're collecting right now with the program. So maybe Wendy, could we start with you?
Absolutely. So I have the luxury or pleasure of working and training the 7th and 8th graders. We start out with some catalyst training so that they understand how to enter rooms, they understand how to use influence when they're working with their students. Also with the 4th graders, we really have tried to make sure that it's very purposeful, so looking at the data and customizing it to exactly what each individual student needs. So I probably head up more the 1st grade aspect of it, and really we started with the very basic letter identifications and sounds. We've moved into high frequency words and word study skills, and now the mentors are really taking them through like a guided reading lesson. They have a plan that they follow and it's tailored to what the individual student's needs. We also have started and expanded it into the preschool, so we've got some fourth graders that are going down into preschool. Kelly and I really work together well. She is more intricately involved with the fourth grade component of it, so I'll let her talk to that.
Yeah, so I teach fourth grade, and so it just has fallen naturally of doing the breakfast buddies. During that breakfast time, they come in, they do their morning jobs, they go to breakfast, and then they get to finish quickly so they can go be their buddy. And then also they donate some of their lunchtime into their recess time to be a buddy in the afternoons. And so they get a choice of breakfast, lunch, or some even do both. And just seeing them grow as humans and students and children just has been incredible over the years to just see it grow each year. We started with it just being this tiny little project of, hey, we have a couple fourth graders that are great leaders and we have kindergartners that need some help. Let's combine it. And so now to have grown, now we have fourth graders coming from all 5 fourth grade sections, and just seeing them become more responsible in some of those pieces. And I was really excited. I think it was one of the 7th graders touched on it in the video of, I learned how to act appropriately in other situations outside of the mentorship program of just building those leadership skills so that you can spread it past just, this is your time with your buddy. Then it's, so many of them are so excited to even walk in the halls and past the kindergarten rooms. And I'm sure the kindergarten teachers hate us for that on all the waves they get every time we walk by. But it's just fun to see that the kindergartner feels so welcomed in the school, and also that fourth grader feeling that I'm the big kid of the elementary and how can I help these kids? And then they even know each other's buddies so well, where your buddy rides my bus, I make sure they're doing okay, and just check-ins throughout the day, just those social pieces. And also, of course, the academics are great on top of that of, they know they need to get their fourth grade work done before they can become their buddy. And so just that they have to be responsible, they have to have work completion, otherwise we can't continue that program. And they hold that very high, and even some of the other pieces connected to that, they push themselves to become that buddy, and it's exciting to see how passionate they are about the project.
My turn? Okay, and I would just say, as the middle school counselor, it's so fun to see, we've added actually some 5th and 6th graders now, and as mentors, and it's so fun to see some of these kiddos are not necessarily considered leaders and maybe involved in groups outside of school, and so it's fun for them to gain those traits and have a lot of pride in what they're doing. And it's so cool to see the relationships and the connections, and I think it's just really empowering and a win-win all around. It's really wonderful.
We've asked for feedback from the mentors multiple times throughout the year, and every time this is one of the highlights of my day.
Yep.
Some students are thinking, maybe I want to be a teacher. Others have confirmed the fact that no, they know they don't want to be a teacher, but it has given them an appreciation of what teachers do for them. So that's been good to, just have that career inspiration. Some might be like, I don't want to be a teacher, but maybe I want to work with people. That's something that I want. In addition to that, too, just seeing, so we have some students that are academically strong, and we have some other students that they themselves have really had to persevere in their learning. But just given the opportunity to mentor somebody else, they might be solidifying some of their learning, because when you can teach somebody else, you just solidify what it is that you taught. But to see their self-confidence grow, and some of the students in the middle school that weren't advocating for themselves in their classroom are now starting to advocate. They have some of those skills to be able to advocate for themselves.
Thank you. I think they just summarized almost everything. I'm going to talk a little bit about the data, and they can chime in as well as we go, but I want to talk a little bit of kind of what we're tracking and what we're looking for. And then some of those pieces within, too, the things that we're noticing, which Wendy touched on in terms of career exploration. This is a huge piece in terms of some hands-on experiences for kids in a field that we don't always promote really well. Do you want to be a teacher? Would you be interested in being a teacher? So looking at those things and how they overlap. On the front page, so this is the front page of it. Okay. I start off with a little bit of what are we looking at to track the data? And there's really kind of two graphs that we're kind of zeroed in on. One of them is we're looking at their instructional reading level as the student is progressing or as the group is progressing. And that one is showing you multiple levels. So if they're reading, their very first level to read at would be a pre-A to an A, and then as they progress through it, how is that progression going? And the other is to look at it with, are they at grade level? Are they partially at grade level, or are they not at meet, so they're below grade level? Okay? And so that first graph that I have here is just an example of one component that we look at. This one in particular is looking at sight words, but you can see on the right-hand column, you can see that instructional reading level, so that's the A, B, C, and so on. And then across, you see it is does not meet. So if you're at an A or a B, you're at a do not meet. Okay, for first grade. In the fall, if you're at a C or a D, you're at partial. And then if you go beyond E, you can see they're at a meets. Right? One thing to keep in mind as we're analyzing the data and we're looking at it, it's a moving target. Okay? So that benchmark is changing as we go from the fall to the winter to the spring. And so that's something that we're trying to be really cognizant of is we're going to see fluctuations because now the benchmark has changed. We've advanced further. And so this is an example of kind of see what fall to winter to spring as we're looking for that progression. Then before I get to the data down below, Wendy kind of touched on it in particular, some of the other pieces that we're looking at and we're tracking, not just the mentee data, so our kindergartners, first graders, and now some preschoolers, and looking at where is their progression, but also the mentors, and looking at the mentors and trying to track that data. One prediction that we have is over time, we're going to see changes in them as well. And so we've already started to look at it in terms of fourth grade. We had, of our fourth graders that were mentors, we didn't put the criteria that they had to be at grade level in order to be in a leadership role and be a mentor. And already from fall just to winter, in 3 months' time, we saw a jump from, I put it on here, 71% to 53%. In terms of kids that are down below the grade level. So huge jump in a short period of time. Some of that is solidifying some learning. Some of that is that leadership role of I have to have my work done because I'm able to lead my things. And it becomes a huge priority. So Wendy touched on the career investigation piece that one day I got to have that same conversation with kids outside as they were getting ready for lunch. And I'm like, do you want to be a teacher? And those same comments from them, nope, this is really solidified. I don't want to be a teacher, right? Or yes, this is what I want to do. What I love is I had one guy in the middle who said, you know what? I'm still interested in being a teacher. I don't want to teach little kids, right? So the fact that they're thinking about it, right? They're moving forward.
Wait until they try and mentor a
Middle schooler might change the world to them completely. And if they love it, then we have to lock them in for here, right? Because we don't have enough middle school teachers. So at the very bottom, I have a piece of data in terms of where we look for kindergarten and a little bit of an explanation. With kindergarten, because they're starting brand new to us, we're not looking necessarily at their instructional reading level. They're at a pre-A or an A. So all of them are at grade level in the fall because they're at the beginning. And so as we're starting to collect that data, one that we look at in particular is letter recognition, right? And so that's this graph over here. And you can see in terms of the red is the very beginning, and we had a lot of kids in the red, right? So that is an A, that's the beginning part, but as we're trying to progress along, you can see this group, and this is just the mentees, right? So just the mentees in kindergarten. You can see the progression as they're coming along through here. Just from a visual standpoint, we're moving a lot of kids from A to B to C.
Does every kid have a mentor?
Not every kid. So what, in terms of starting the year off, we looked at letter recognition, and kids that did not have 40 letters, did not have 8 sounds.
Okay,
that's considered that beginning, that level A. And so if they didn't have that, they were going to be teamed up with a mentor, right? And so that's one area we're looking at to move those kids along. And they're huge.
Are the kids that don't have a mentor progressing just as well?
They're making
Since they were
absolute-
already grade level, how
It's
are
a
they
good question.
doing?
Wendy, maybe you have just some anecdotal to that.
No, and we have not, I have not personally tracked the people that do not meet with the mentor. We've not compared that, to be totally honest with you, but that is something that we've talked about, we've wanted to.
Yep.
In first grade, so a part of this then, in order to be purposeful with the data, you have to be continually collecting data and continually analyzing data, and that takes a lot of time. So as this has grown, my role has changed a little bit, where I'm not pulling small groups like I used to, because I'm training and managing and overseeing all of the first grade mentors. And so initially that was hard for some teachers, like, well, wait a minute, what, you're not gonna be meeting with my students, you're gonna have a middle school student meet with my students, and there was some hesitation, which we anticipated, and I just asked, please be open and honest with me. After the winter benchmark, I had a couple of teachers come to me and say, do you have about like 5 or 6 or 7 more mentors, because I saw the lower ones grow and my middle ones didn't grow as much. So we
Okay,
haven't
so
done
it
an
is-
official like comparison, but that right there tells you that they are seeing the impact in the classroom.
And what Kelly and Wendy and Stacy, what we're doing, we're personalizing education for these kids. It's one-on-one.
Yeah.
So they're having a huge impact.
The other piece of that is you have one of Wendy versus how many mentors? You know, how many
In
more kids
kindergarten
can you
and first
see?
grade, we have 65 mentors.
Yes.
You went from one person seeing small groups to 65 people.
We've expanded the number of kids that we can touch.
Right.
And each of the mentors only has one student.
Right.
So they really get to know what they're not. It's not only individualized learning, but individualized
Attention.
teachers.
Yeah, it really is.
Cool.
The backside, I just want to touch on a little bit. So the backside is first grade, just to give you a little view of that. First grade, so in terms of first grade, when we started the fall, we assessed where students were at. We had 32% of kids below grade level in first grade. Okay? So in the red. What I have here are 3 components in particular. So this is not instructional reading level, but 3 other components that we look at to build towards instructional reading level. So the very first one is reading sight words, where we're looking at. And the 2 graphs you have there is that continuum of how students or how the group is progressing. And then the second one, you have the red, yellow, green one, is where are kids at that are below grade level and how are we progressing kids out of that. One thing to keep in mind again is that moving target. So in the fall and in November, that's the fall benchmarking. And then as we move into January and February, we've upped the game. The benchmark is now harder. But you can still see where the red is going. The red in particular, we are reducing the number of kids in the red. You can see in the middle one then is written sight words. So both they have to look at it as reading sight words, written sight words, and then the last one is word study. So using those words, looking at, you want to describe word study at first grade?
Yeah,
Or
so it starts out with, can a student, do they know their initial consonants, their middle vowel, and their end consonants? Then it goes into digraphs. Do they have control of SH, CH, TH? Move into blends, beginning blends and final blends, and then gets into like the long vowels and the vowel teams.
In terms of kind of a precursor, at the next curriculum committee meeting, we will look at overall data across the district. So Sarah, to your comparison piece, we'll get a chance to start to look at that and look at where's the grade level as a whole, and then also the mature data. Any questions?
How does the classroom teacher play into the program? Because it's kind of a different role at this point, because it's a daily intervention, isn't it?
It is, yep.
So how does that work and how are they receptive?
So their input is taken, first of all, on students that they recommend. then as we collect data and update data, then I have conversations with the classroom teachers on, this is what we're seeing, is this what you're seeing? Really, the activities that we do mirror what the literacy footprints curriculum does, so that students aren't getting an isolated skill or an isolated something taught different. They're getting more practice of the same thing to help solidify the components of reading.
And the key there is that it's an intervention that's getting more practice. So this isn't a replacement of what they're doing in the classroom, it's an addition to what they're doing in the classroom.
And so our first graders, some of them get to lunch a little bit late, so we're maximizing time instead of them waiting in the lunchroom or waiting in the lunch line. They're meeting with their seventh grade mentor, and then the mentor just walks them to the lunchroom. And then eighth grade, they meet with them towards the end of the day, because the seventh and eighth graders are coming out of their pride time. That's when they are meeting with the elementary students, is during their pride time.
So how much time in a day is it that they're paired up?
So it's around 25 minutes. So like the seventh graders they have a split pride time. So we do our training, then they go to lunch, and then they come back and they grab their buddy and they work with their buddy for around 20 to 25 minutes. Same thing with eighth grade, only eighth grade we meet first, and then we have training like 3 days a week. Otherwise, they just go back to prime time and are able to utilize some of their prime time, because they too are sacrificing time. It's work time for them, and and then kindergarten and fourth grade.
It's a little bit shorter just because we don't want them to miss out too much lunch, too much recess, because we do see the benefits of those two, where we want them to make sure they have those times, and so it's closer to a 15-minute, and then our schedule lines up perfectly. And breakfast, we go straight to specials after breakfast, and so they know they have to be back by 9, otherwise they'll miss the gym music, pieces like that. So they're back by 9, so it's in between, I'd say 15 and 20 minutes for a fourth grader.
And for a preschooler, that's structured a little bit different. A fourth grade mentor might have like 4 children that they work with, because we're doing letter formation and letter sounds linked with pictures. So they're maybe only with their buddy for 3 to 5 minutes. It's not a very long time.
So just to clarify, the middle school mentors come out of pride time. So they have shown that that's where they get 2 days a week, their 20-minute character ed SEL lesson. So part of them being nominated by their classroom teachers, they show that they exhibit those traits. And so they aren't necessarily in pride time for that tier 1 intervention, also IXL and SSR time. So they go, and that's when they do their mentoring. So we want them to walk their talk, to use that character ed language and knowledge with their mentees also. So that's when they're doing that.
Any other questions?
Just one other comment. I did, as a former elementary principal, that our school, I thought, did a really good job of our interventions, and we actually became a blue ribbon school. And this program, and I visited with Kelly and Wendy, and I told them to start taking notes and develop this program, because I think there's a market for them to go off and create this and not lose them.
Well, if they start that, they're not staying.
On top of this, there's always a way to create things to help other schools and help other kids. But what's great about this is how much it helps kids, and not only the kids that need it, but the kids that are mentoring. I've never seen a program that has helped both. And I asked Ryan and the administrators to nominate these people for the Sourcewell Team Award, and they won that award. They're going to get recognized by Sourcewell at the awards banquet in April for this program that they developed. So I want to congratulate them, because I've been around elementary school for 20 years as a principal and a teacher, and I've never seen results like this in intervention, and I just kudos to you guys. And appreciate the work that you guys are doing, and it's phenomenal work and the creativity that you guys have taken to keep building it and to go out of your way to, think outside the box. And, I appreciate these guys supporting it. And, I think, we've put some money to help you guys do that too, which I think is what we were about, because, it's not easy to create the time to do that. But that's why I wanted these guys to see the results that you guys are getting, because it's worth it. So I appreciate all you guys have done, and both connecting now the middle school to the elementary, and it's what makes this place special. So, and people like you guys have done that. So thank you guys.
Anything else from, any other questions, comments, or concerns here? All right, thank you so much for coming. Going to move next to Mr. Zize, who's gonna sell me coffee.
I thought it was a lot worse.
Well, we're gonna work on that after.
All right.
That was the next idea I gave.
All right. So I asked Mr. Zize to share, we've been working on for a couple of years about the need to redo our school website, because it's very confusing, and I think it needs to be relooked at. So Ryan and Brent have done some work already, and we've got a company that is going to come in with Brent and Ryan, and I asked Brent to come in and show you what we're going to do and how it's going to look starting hopefully this summer. So take it away, Mr. Zize.
All right, well, thank you guys for having me. I do appreciate that. I want to show you some, our website, obviously, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, but I want to compare and contrast that with what's available out there that schools are using these days, and just show like how we can improve our communications and we can more centralize our message across our community. So, our website, it's getting the job done. It has gotten the job done for quite a while. We do have some social media feeds on here. It's relatively easy for people to access. However, there's a lot of links that you got to click through to get to things. And yeah, there's dead ones. And unfortunately, because of some of the personnel changes we've had, we haven't had people have really been able to keep up with the backside of this. And one of the things that it's a little bit complicated. So we started looking, like Mike said, we started looking at different website providers. And there's a company out there called Final Site that they do websites, and that's all that they do. They're specialized in school websites. And they provide a much more of an interactive and a more appealing graphically website. This, for example, is Faribault. And one of the great things about us is, we have Mr. Cool here, who's got great videography skills. We can start putting more of a interactive, these moving GIFs on our website. It just has a much more better presentation for our district. And these are sorts of things that we can do. And this websites, these new versions of websites are very easy to see how they're going to look with a mobile device. And they shrink down really well. You can go through it, and everything that you need is there. So this, for example, is what Faribault did here. And this gives us a lot more options. I'm going to show you two other examples of a couple other schools. This is a school in Illinois. They have the same similar motif. You have the moving pictures in the front. It really draws people in. You can show off some of your programs, the things that you're highlighting, things that you want to emphasize as a district. And with us, with our CTC center, we could do a lot more things like that. Really easy for news navigation. What are we doing each day? Different drop-down menus. Much more of a graphical user interface sort of a deal. much easier to follow. They have a Twitter feed, which is great. That's my robotics guys next door.
I've been wondering what that was.
They're finalizing their robot right
I
now.
thought maybe I'm like, how are they playing basketball over there? How are the little kids
The
playing
ball is
basketball over there?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes more sense. Thank you.
Thank you. And then like this actually is the school that I was with, and this is one of the things that we can do. I was in Kiev, Ukraine. You know, if we're hitting weather, we can throw these little flash drops in there right away so people can see it. You get rid of it, and once again, we have our moving pictures. You know, people can see what's going on in the school and all of that.
Do we have somebody updating the site now, like every day like this? That's what I was gonna ask, is who's gonna do that every time?
We have a partial person, Sarah Zimmerman, who's our working with communications.
Yeah.
And when I showed her this site and the things that it's capable of, and I said to her, I want you to take a look at this from your point of view. And she's like, oh my God, this is so much easier to use. And so she feels that she can be much more efficient with being able to put things out there and updating it and doing all of that. So for right now, it takes her forever to do things like this. But this should be a lot
So-
easier.
The teachers will be able to link their pages back up and do things like they used to, instead of just having a dead hole with a picture of the teacher that's not really that teacher.
Yeah, it will be, we can assign different pages out to different teachers. We haven't really gone down that far down the rabbit hole yet. But these are some of the things that we're taking a look at, and just overall, just to make our site a little bit more interactive. And like I said, the number one reason why we're doing this is ease of use. Our current site is not very easy to use. Everything that you're seeing here on this Parable site is all done with a template that we'll be able to create very quickly. I'm already in the process of doing that. But what also it does is it really opens up the possibility of laying the foundation for better communications with the district. And the fact that we can, it's called COPE, you create once and you publish everywhere. And we can create digital newsletters that we can put out once a month, or every 2 months, or every 3 months. And we're not just reliant on the actual physical paper mailing that we send out, that little catalog that we have. So we'll be able to have a better interaction with our community. And, you know, we might even be able to cut that down and save a little money there to offset things. And it should really help us overall.
Well, you can't get rid of that.
Oh, no, we're not gonna get rid of it. No.
Old people would be mad.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that it's not right for them just to go online, and that we have recognized that. But it'll help centralize our messaging. I did a quick look. We have 17 pages that are associated with our school on Facebook. That were like people were like, wow, we have. I'll just read them off to you. High school baseball, middle school, boys basketball, boys track and field, Huskies volleyball, ag ed department, Huskies girls basketball, fine arts at Pillager, parent teacher organization, youth sports, football family, booster club, clay target team, cheerleaders, fishing team, youth baseball association, and Pillager fun stuff. And so that really kind of helps dilute our message as an organization. So trying to bring that, at least trying to bring it underneath one umbrella where one stop, people can see all this stuff, and we can put this sort of thing into our website. It'd be much easier for folks.
My question, so you're planning on asking those people to not do anything unless it goes through here?
We're asking them to make.
Yes, that's not gonna happen.
Oh, no. And a lot of them aren't even run by official people at the school.
No, they're not.
And we know that. And that's something that, you know, we can ask people, say, hey, we're going to make a feed for your page on our page so that a member of the public can come out here and they can scroll down and they can see, you know, all the different things that are happening in one place instead of like trying to find 17 pages of Facebook.
So the person from like Sports Boosters, let's say, would have to send it to the person here.
Yeah.
To get it updated into them.
Yep, and that's all we'd have to do. And then it's one stop, so.
So basically you buy the website service from a company
Yes,
and they help you build your website initially,
yes.
and then they're done helping you, and then Sarah takes over
keeping it up to date?
It'll be Sarah, Nicole Bramer is also lending a hand, and myself. And so there'll be three of us initially who will be working on this and making the transition. And they have a very great, it's called a content management system, and they have a very well thought out support desk option that we can ask a question within an hour or two, we get an answer back. Their support is really above board. The company's called Final Say, and it's used by schools literally all over the world. And it's really one of the better ones out there. So that is an absolutely great question. Sarah will be able to do a lot more with this site.
And clean up all our old stuff that's difficult to navigate.
Yes.
We have different links that are, like Sarah said, they're broken. When we built it back years ago, we used a company and we had people like, well, Sue helped us build it. And we had links that were linked to links to links, and it wasn't really built very well. You can't find different things because they're not built correctly, kind of, to say with the company that we use. So you can't find things on the page. That's one of the things that's wrong with our site. The other thing that's what Brett mentioned kind of, but you know, if you look at a newsletter that Sarah builds, it's all color. It's a beautiful website, but when we send it out, there's only 4 pages that are it's colored. So if you choose, you could get it digitally. So if you wanted it, we would not. Let's say Becky says, "Well, I would rather have it digital because it's always on my phone." For example, some people get it in the mail and they lose it, they throw it away. So if you you could opt in and say, I just want it digital. Well, now I don't have to cut down a tree and mail it to you. You could get it digital. Sorry, didn't mean to offend you. But then you could get them both, for example. Then you always have it with you because there's schedules on there. There's things in there that you always want at your hand. You always want it with you. So you could download it on your phone, for example. So you'd say, when were those swimming lessons again? I can't remember. You know what? It's on my phone. I'll pull it up. Oh yeah, swimming practice was at 5, whatever. So that, because I know it's in the newsletter, but I don't have that. It's at my home or it's on my fridge. So now you have it as a digital copy. It's on your, so that's one advantage, for example, having the newsletter. But the nice thing about that is you can build that on the website. Sarah can build that. Now she can download that and it just copies into the newsletter. She doesn't have to rebuild the whole newsletter. It's just that system there downloads it for her. So it's much easier to build the newsletter from the website. So it saves her, lots of time, for example.
Yeah. Dozens. And my question is, when I go through the website on my phone, maybe it's because I'm older and I can't see it as well, right? Is this
Well,
much?
like this.
This is a mobile friendly.
Yeah.
This is
mobile
mobile
friendly.
friendly.
That's
Yeah.
pretty
Very
good.
mobile
Click the
friendly.
link.
Yeah, you know where I was going.
And some things that aren't mobile,
Correct.
they don't work on your phone.
Correct.
Right.
This one does. This is a mobile friendly app to where it.
The almighty question is,
Right.
Yes,
So that was
that was my next question. I was
Yeah.
waiting for everybody, and then I was. How
Like
much?
you just download it right there so it fits on your phone.
The other piece with Final Site too is putting the most important information at the front, and we can do that on a whim. So if there is a event that's happening or school's closed for weather, right? The splash
Love
page
that.
will
Yeah.
immediately
Because
be
that's
the first
you
thing.
usually do is you go to the website. Yep.
And it won't be the banner, but it'll actually be a pop-up piece
Yeah.
that says.
And I like
School
that
is
better
closed
than a
today.
banner.
I love that. I like
Yeah.
that better than
School is
the
closed,
other
what are you learning?
Yeah.
two. Love that.
How much?
Yeah.
And how long to
And you do
implement?
this.
The implementation, we've already started it. They said we could actually get it up and running by mid-May. But I want to stay sane. So that's one of my project actually was to get it by July 1st. And so our old contract ends on July 1st. So who's going to start under it?
I was not gonna judge it until the first day of school, so I was giving you a little more time.
The cost was,
Around 5,000 a year.
yeah, we currently pay, what is it, like 3?
With our security we have to buy for it, our ADA compliance around 3,000.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more expensive, however, and I think there's a little more in the first setup, but the interesting piece is we can use ESSER dollars because of the communication piece, or we can use the setup, we can use ESSER dollars for the first time setup fee.
What is their, like, you said they have a, help desk. Do
Yeah,
they always have a help desk, or is that just in the initial setup?
no, it's.
5 years, we got a glitch.
That's what you
Can
pay
we-
an annual
Always.
5,000 for?
Yeah.
Okay.
And even though it's $2,000 more, we may save
Save
time,
money
in-
down the road.
we may save time in the newsletter costs, because we save, I think we budget like $15,000 per newsletter. I don't know what, it was like $15,000 for the newsletter. Well, if we don't use that much in printing, we may end up saving money, depending, because people don't, as more people
Yeah,
might
there's
say,
a
I'd
lot
rather
of
have the
people that would
digital.
rather have it digitally.
Right.
I just know that,
No.
I've been asked to bring them to the nursing home.
Yeah, and we'll still do
And they
both.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll still do them, but some of our families,
Getting them.
especially our non-families, like the residents that don't have students here,
Yes.
well, that's the only way they might get it,
Yes.
is through the mail.
Yep.
But our families might say, I'd rather have the digital.
Yep.
You know, so if we, instead of printing, 6,000 copies every time, we might only have to print 2,000, which is gonna save us, in the long run, it might be cheaper, who knows?
Thanks. Any other questions, comments?
I love the idea of updating our website.
Yeah.
Thank
I think that's awesome.
It's been a few years coming, but, it took us a while to get that.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
If
Thank
guys have
you.
any other questions, just let me know.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I gotta get back to the boys, make sure we've got all the fingers.
Well, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's calmer now than it did 5
Tell
minutes
one
ago.
to hit me up.
All right, I will.
All
Thanks,
right,
Mr. Brady.
moving on
Thank
to
you.
personnel. Do you have the personnel agenda that I can look at and go off of? Because I did not bring my notes. Thank you, sir. All right, we met on March 8th. First, we talked about the 2022-23 staffing for special education. I had notes on what the numbers were and everything, though. Elementary SLD caseload was high, if I'm not mistaken, correct? And we need to hire somebody for that.
Yep, 1.0.
Yeah. Hire a 1.0 for the elementary SLDs. Then the K-12 DCD,
Remind me these abbreviations as we say them.
LD, SLD is learning disability.
special.
Okay. And then DCD.
Cognitive disability.
Okay.
Disability. Development disability.
Right now, the current caseload is 33 students. That's per? Correct.
That was K through,
K-12.
yeah,
And for DCD, that's per teacher, instructor.
Yeah.
How many total amount of DC kids?
Yeah. Total K through 12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But we needed to hire only, was it a 0.5 for that one?
No, that was a 1.0.
That was a 1.02, and then the possible middle school was, because we only need a half.
We're close to needing we're gonna wait and see where we're at with the middle
Yes.
school.
Because right now, the students need a position. Yes. Okay, sorry, I don't have my notes with me. Then we discussed the additional electives. We will have, our new football coach, when he comes in, will be working a credit recovery program for the kids that need to recover credits in high school, 9th through 12th, so he'll be 0.4 there. And then he'll also be covered under the freshman academy. Other instructors may teach some of these things. Well, he does something else, but that's where the cost breaks down. We talked about the reduction of Mr. Cool on the yearbook. Did we discuss who's taking over the yearbook?
That'll be probably put on new business position,
Yes.
if we find one, hopefully. That's the plan.
Yeah, that's. Then we discussed the retirements of Lisa Pettit and Ann Hutchinson, and what our plan is to place with Lisa Pettit. We believe we can fill it internally with the teachers we need because we have sections now that will go down so we can move. So we're gonna try and fill that one internally. And Hutchinson, we need to post, and I think we already did post for a 1.0 business instructor, which we're not sure we'll find. But we've been lucky. We got chemistry and an ag teacher. So you never know.
And 2 special ed teachers.
And 2, yeah. So, then we discussed the long-term substitutes, 1 in elementary, middle school, and 1 in the high school. All were funded by ESSER.
Correct.
Yes. Are we keeping them next year? Did we decide that?
Yeah.
Yes.
We're gonna post those positions for next year.
Yes.
And fund through ESSER.
And then we discussed some non-renewals, but, some of that's changed, and we'll go over that. Then we also discussed Schedule C, the additional, positions, doing an RFP every 2 years in the spring. And they're supposed to be negotiated every 4 years. It's due next year by May for the September 2023, Schedule C. We discussed the buildings and grounds contract for 2022 through 2024. And I believe you hired Eric Morchall for that. Continue to work.
Is that typically a 3-year contract? Just curious.
2 years.
Oh.
It's through the 20, it starts 2022.
Goes till 2020.
And yeah, it's usually a 2-year
Yep.
contract.
Yep.
An addendum for distance learning. We discussed the rate for the bus contract for the 2020-21 school year and had a discussion of whether we were going to discuss, extend that into the 2021-22 school year. I abstained from that discussion as much as I could because I had a conflict, so the other 2 worked on that nicely. We advertised for a request for the transportation quote, which we have to do every so many years for the 2022-2024 board meeting for the bus contracts, due by May 2nd. Have we gotten any?
We haven't done that yet.
Oh, okay.
We're working on it. We will be posting.
Okay. We are recommending this year to do a 2-year with, plus 2 years because of price fluctuations, that covers us and Fortune Bus Company because their costs are going up, so we can renegotiate 2 years if say gas is $7 a gallon instead of 4. So that would be an advantage for both of us. So, and then Mike has recommended that we have an attorney review the contract for any language or quotes for any possible issues that may arise. Anything else we discussed?
Have we gotten any input from teachers on Schedule C?
I have not yet. I've sent some things out, so,
Nothing's coming.
nothing yet, but we won't, I told them I needed them before our activities committee meets, so we'll have an activities committee meeting in April.
Yeah.
So, trying to get them, I told them I need them before we meet, so I can get them into the budget before June.
Okay, any other questions, comments, concerns?
And keep in mind, those, they could come from teachers, but they could also come from admin too.
Yeah.
So I'll throw some things in there for that activities.
Then, I'm going to make a motion for the probationary teacher non-renewal, which needs to be a roll call vote. I will make a motion, that we non-renew Claire Norland this year. Do I need to read
I'll
this?
second.
Do I need to read this one?
So you need to read that, yeah, sure.
Sarah Nagel introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. whereas Claire Norland is a tier 1 teacher in Independent District 116. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent District number 116 that the teaching contract of Claire Norland, tier 1 teacher in Independent School District 116 shall be non-renewed at the end of the 2021-22 school year, effective May 30th, 2022. And be it further resolved that the written notice may be sent to said teacher regarding the non-renewal of the teacher contract. Yeah, that's the rest is the voting. So I made the motion. I believe Steve seconded. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I assume since we read this right now, this person would know about this.
We've all been,
Boy, that would not be nice.
Way to find out.
That would not be good.
And most of them, they have the ability to reapply or whatever if there's openings and such, so.
So it's just a position that's open.
tier 1 is because she's not properly licensed. That's why that one is. She can reapply again if we have the middle school, for example, or the other special ed. She can reapply again if we don't have a licensed person.
Any other questions?
What do we hire her in the first place if she wasn't properly licensed?
Because we didn't have anybody else. That was in the middle of the year.
And yeah, I
Added
believe
that
she was a
position.
long-term sub or something this year.
We didn't have anything in our notes about this, did we? I didn't read
There
anything.
was, there was an email that was sent.
A separate?
Yeah, I put it in my weekly update too, but I think,
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, let's start with Steve.
Aye.
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 Aye. Passes. Then we will move to the next one. I will introduce the resolution and move for its adoption, whereas Cassidy Hocus is a probationary teacher in Independent School District number 116. Be it resolved, the School Board of Independent School District number 116, that pursuant to Minnesota Statute 122A.40 subsection 5 and the District Master Agreement, the teaching contract of Cassidy Hocus, a probationary teacher in Independent School District 116, shall be non-renewed at the end of the 2021-22 school year, effective May 30th, 2022. Be it further resolved that written notice may be sent to said teacher regarding non-renewal of her contract as provided by law, and that said notice shall be placed in said teacher's personnel file. I've made that motion. Is there a second? Second. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
How much can be shed that does not, on the light of that subject? In the aspect of why is she not getting removed?
Yeah, I can share that. It's because we have 5 sections of 4th grade and it's reducing to 4.
So, needs.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, so Steve again?
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Aye. And I believe that concludes the personnel section of the meeting. Curriculum,
We need to be.
all right.
That was a short one.
I have
Can you beat him?
We
I can't beat that.
Before we go on to
All
his
right.
report, we are going to plan a curriculum committee meeting. So Mr. Domingo would like to schedule that with you guys tonight if we can. And that's you, Becky, and Lucy. So after this meeting, if you can sit down with you and maybe find a date, that works for you guys.
It's not as short as that. but
All
it's
right.
short. So,
I'll let you go.
it was in the board packet, but you got a paper copy too. Again, just a reminder, spring testing is just around the corner, April. MCA tests are coming. And so those testing dates are out on the school website, but there'll be a message also going home to families reminding them of the following, or the 3 weeks in April, that will be primarily when testing happens for most students. The other thing to keep in mind is that the STAR test, that's our local assessment, that will be those first 2 weeks into May, 2 to 3 weeks in there, is scheduled by individual classrooms, but the STAR test in particular is what our World's Best Workforce goals are written off of. So just to kind of keep that in mind, also make sure that we do our best on both the MCA test, but also the STAR test as it comes through.
Is 50 students taking ACT, is that typical?
That would be a good question. I don't know about typical because I don't have the history on it, but with 100 kids in a class approximately, it's a pretty good number. We have a number of kids that take the ASVAB as well. So making sure that we have options for kids. One that we could maybe look at in the future is the ASVAB, the AccuPlacer as another option, which would be our state schools use that as a placement test. A couple places I've been where we scheduled all 3 of them on one day. And so it's kind of a college career day.
In the past, I would say 50 is very average because of our class sizes. And did colleges start accepting the ACT? Because last year you didn't need it.
Still a mix, yeah.
So
And
a
some are,
lot of schools don't need it. Why are you paying for it?
And I think the kids were told, at least that's what I heard in my household, is if you don't take the ASVAB, then you have to take the ACT. So they kind of signed up for, maybe
One
they
or the
did
other.
both, maybe they signed up for one or the other.
I think most are doing one or the other,
Okay,
but it certainly is an option. They're not on the same day. So every kid wants to take one. And this is the ACT that's offered for us in-house.
Yep.
And so obviously kids also have the option of taking it at a testing site. The second one I have there is just an update on summer school. We sent out invitations to families with students that were below grade level. So we sent out 480 invitations to families for K through 8. We have currently 67 registered in 7 days that it's been out. So they have until the end of March to kind of do that. It's kind of our deadline, trying to make sure that we can cover the transportation.
480 is a lot of kids that need it.
480 is a lot of kids. So hopefully
Are we
we'll.
blaming most of that on COVID or COVID combined with other things?
I would say combined probably with other things too. I mean, definitely the loss of learning has a big impact. And with additional funding, we're hoping to up the game a little bit in terms of options for kids. It's an all-day option, and so I think that's where we're going to get more and more families with it.
Yeah, you're gonna get
Because
them
they
all,
got
because they don't
them
have to
for
take
the
a
full
day.
day. So
and the thing is too, is you got teachers, all the teacher spots are filled for it.
we have, so we did not place teachers just yet. We did just kind of all call the teachers in terms of who would be interested in summer school. We have 22 on the list.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have quite a few people that are interested in doing it. And then Matt's been working with coaches and teachers as well for the afternoon camps. And we got a ton. We got a ton. So I think we have the personnel there. It's gonna be that, will we hit our goal? Our goal is to have about 200, about 100 elementary, 100 in the middle school. And we have about 20 in the middle school, and we have about close to 50, 47 in the elementary school right now. So
That would be
we got
good.
2 more
Middle
weeks.
school kids can stay home by themselves most of them.
Yeah, that's
They
it.
all
You know,
need to-
even with an all-day option, those middle schoolers, it is a little bit of a push to say, hey, come back.
I hate to be that callous, but in all honesty, there are no daycares available really.
Mhm.
And what are you doing with your kid?
Yeah.
So
Just 3
if you
options and
put
it's
them in
good
there
options
and
for
they
kids.
qualify, why would you not?
They get breakfast, they get lunch,
Yes.
we get transportation,
Do you know where they're at?
the whole day.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
hopefully we're gonna keep pushing towards our goal. And then the third one I have on there is just an update on the mentor program. You know, we're still working on those pieces, but the staff development committee came together. We collected information from all of our teachers, collected specifically from the new teachers, so new teachers that just went through our new teacher orientation, and then collected it from other districts as well. What do they do? And so there's a little bit of kind of a description, kind of synopsis there in terms of to describe what is that position, what's that going to look like? Because our next step is to look at that detail and then advertise it out to our teachers who would like to be a mentor. We're going to create the bank, and then depending on our hires, that's the bank that we would go to supply somebody with a mentor.
Hopefully that works as well as the student mentoring
Yeah.
program
Yeah.
seems to be.
Yeah, we had a lot of a great conversation around, you know, what does it need to be? What does it look like? Some of it will be some of the detail in terms of, you know, what's that timeline? When's it good to have that conversation with the new teacher about conferences? When it is, you know, they've never done that before. When is it the time to have that conversation around where your materials are? You know, and so that no matter what, they're gonna have a little bit of the avalanche in that first week of all the information coming at them. But we know that with a new teacher, we try to space it out. So you can see there in terms of what is a mentor, and it just really quickly lists it out. They are a lot of things to new teachers. The middle section is really kind of that, what are we looking for from that mentor? We're really looking for cultural, what does it mean to be a Pillager, right? That procedural, how do I do this? How do I make copies? Where do I go put my stuff, right? And then the instructional side, where are the materials, that teaching piece within the classroom. And then the last part is that time commitment, where we're looking for from the mentors.
Also Ryan, we did talk about, we had 14 teachers that we hired last year. We had a big group last year. And we talked about offering it to first or second year teachers last year that were either new, in their first or second year, maybe not the teachers that came with many years of experience, but offer those people, if they want to have a mentor again next year, have them ask them if they want to be a part of this as going into next year.
Yeah.
So encourage them to, or see if they want to do it, give them the option to continue with this program. And if their mentor was somebody who wanted to be a part of the mentor program, that we would kind of keep them going into this program.
Kind of gives us a start to it.
Yeah.
Kind of get us going. And then the other thing, which I think was I didn't think about it until we had that staff development committee, was people brought up that as the mentor, I have a stipend that I'm getting, but as the mentee, if I know somebody's getting that, maybe don't feel so bad that I'm going to them every single day with a question, right? Where some are right, they're holding off because I just asked them 3 things yesterday. Can I go ask them another thing? So to kind of know that they have that position or that stipend piece, maybe kind of fills the gap a little bit.
Any other questions for Ryan? Anything
Sounds
else
like
from
you're
Ryan?
Making good
I
progress.
know.
Yeah, we did a lot of, it's been good.
Thank you. Okay, policy.
We did not have any policies yet. There's still nothing new to send to you guys as a group.
Yes. It don't work. I'm telling you. Activities did not meet.
We will have a meeting before the
Yes.
next one, so I'll
Yep.
send you and Randy.
I was busy, Randy's been busy.
You both been getting tan.
Yeah, I got hurt. I didn't even bother with Dan.
You stick right back to them.
It was beautiful. Loved it.
All right, Brian, you ready?
Yep. Facilities.
We met on Tuesday, March 15th. We had a nice little input of things we were going to discuss that kind of got blown up at the end of it. So we went to Plan B. So I'm going to make a motion. Most of you got the email on this, but I'm going to make the motion that we accept the athletic complex project as stated. Project costs: bleachers, baseball, softball, track upgrades, stadium lights, contingency, soft cost fees, and for a total cost of $1,095 or $95,000.
I was gonna say, way to put in that $95. I like it.
The first base. 2022, 2023 funding sources. We'll take 360 from capital. That'd be about 2% of the unreserved accounts. The rest will be budgeted from LTFM over the next 2 fiscal years of 2022, 2023, and 2023 and 2024, which we will redo the LTF plan in the 2 and 10-year plan and submit with MDE. We would anticipate the LTFM to operate in a negative balance for those 2 years while still planning for some regular maintenance budget of $88,000 in each year. 2022, 2023 would be $767,000 in the hole. 2023, 2024 would be $390,000 in the hole. And 24 and 25, we would be to the positive. District does have 114 in reserved capital account. If something does come up unexpectedly, that needs to be replaced. Rationale. This is why we decided to do this, because we all of a sudden, when we were going through it, the light poles became a subject. So the reason we're doing it, the rationale for it, is the lights on the wood poles and will need to be replaced at some point. Stadium work will need ground excavating done, which will be exposing 2 of the poles, and they will need to be tested to ensure they are good. More cost effective to replace them now versus after stadium bleachers are installed. New lights will be LED and are more cost-effective to operate and less maintenance, less issues in scheduling for activities in one summer versus two. Timing a project for some of the activities, baseball field, more or less. Delaying some of the project will be more costly in the future, lights. Replacing some facilities that are outdated and it will end up being a fabulous facility. More importantly, facilities will be ADA compliant all the way through. So that was the motion that I have on the table.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Questions, comments, concerns?
We went through all, I'd say, we had a really long discussion on all of it, and I think the thing is like, once we talk about repairing thing and then like having all this equipment come back, even 5 years later and tearing stuff out to replace these lights, the lights were 60,000 a pole with the light. The light
And we
was
don't know how
40
long.
and the pole was 20
Well, and we don't
or
know,
something.
yeah, it was, the pole was 40 and lights were 20, and we don't know how long those, you would probably know more than we would, how long those wood poles have been with the lights that are on it now. Since 90?
No,
Probably.
there were not, it was not a light
There were
in
no
field
lights.
until 95, I'd say.
So we don't know the structurally how
I would guess
that pole,
94, 95 was after me.
so a lot of it was, we don't know what they.
Yes, I'm that old.
So a lot of years, you know.
It was
So-
here, it was lighted when you were here.
Yes.
So how do you run maybe a balance?
You just, yeah,
Where does the money come from?
it's coming in future dollars. You're allowed to go in the hole on LTFF because then he knows you're getting those dollars in the
But
future.
who pays the contractor when they're done with the work?
We pay it out of our general, out of our budget. You know what? We just pay it out of our budget. We were in the hole on our big capital project, $790,000.
So kind of just paying ourselves back when we do get the dollars.
Yes.
Yeah, we're just borrowing from ourselves.
It's the way the buckets work.
Yeah.
Which
And
one
the
you,
other flow of everything, so.
But we're not actually borrowing money, just moving it on account.
Correct.
and you said this, but not everybody knows what ADA compliant means. So I want to point out that this will make the whole facility handicap accessible, wheelchair accessible.
They have the path to the baseball
Yes, they'll be able
field.
to watch their kid play baseball
And football in the bleachers, it must have some way to get up and find a spot.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
they have the handicap on the bleachers, they have handicap wheelchair on the bleachers. So many spots for
Yeah.
that, correct?
Are there grants available for that?
No,
Or
no,
making
it's,
stuff handicap accessible?
we,
if there are, find some.
no, none that I'm aware of.
It's gonna be beautiful, but yeah, it was an intense.
I like the
Well, when
idea of
we-
being
when-
done in a year and.
Well, I
And
just
so
think
that's
like-
where we came into.
I was just like, the thought
Again,
of
yeah.
ever having to go back and with the equipment to go back on that.
Well, then I worry about the tar that you put down
And then
in your
you're-
path being
Yes.
ruined from the trucks.
Well, and you're gonna have to redo the lawn both years, because
Yeah.
otherwise it's gonna look like trash
So-
year one, and then you're gonna run the trash.
We
That's
decided,
happening.
yeah.
It was towards the end of the meeting, so we went through all this and then we decided, then we had to go back and revisit everything. After everything was said and done, and then this is the project, or this is the ideas that we came up with.
Well, I think the other big piece of this too, when we started this whole project, we were just thinking, we were just looking at bleachers, right?
Yeah.
And then we talked about the baseball field, and then we're gonna update some pieces to the softball field too. So, when you get done with this whole, other than the locker room, which is a project that we have to look at some point too, out there, somewhere down the road. But you're gonna have an athletic complex, that whole field, that complex out there is gonna be updated for years to come. It's gonna be a beautiful complex for baseball, softball, track, football.
Well, and that's great, and I love that. The part I like the best is that the grandparents and that handicap
Yeah.
accessibility of being able to get anybody
And then
that
there's
wants to
like
watch be able to go
And we
watch.
can tar to all the things.
Yes.
And there's nice little, like we talked about, putting those picnic areas where, it's just kind of a nicer little It's a nice little complex for all, not just football, but you're doing softball, you're doing baseball, and, you know, the things that we talked about is gonna make them all
Yeah.
nicer little,
But we're not just focusing on one sport
Right.
or another, we're.
The bummer though is that junior high or JV softball field, down the hill, no fence, but that's where your shot put and your discus go. I mean, it's not, we don't have room for something else.
well,
It's not a nice field, for sure. People would come to our school and think that's a nice field.
Oh,
Our
you mean
second softball field,
No, this one over here, that one where you have to chase the ball about 100 miles an hour.
and it goes down the hill then?
Yeah.
And you
I
can't
have never
a
figured out
fence,
why we didn't
So-
fence that and level it.
but you can't
properly.
because that's where our discus and our shot put and our left field come together.
Yep.
So then
You
you,
could have flat for this picture.
The shot put is gonna be real close to the left field line of the softball field.
Yeah, but
But the
you
discus
could
is gonna be
still
far
level
away.
it to the,
Oh, yeah, you're saying behind
the other
Yeah.
where the
side,
hill's at, yeah.
yes. Yeah, that's what I meant. I've never figured out why we didn't do that.
Does this include any new scoreboards or?
yep, there'll be a new scoreboard for both baseball and
I believe
softball.
softball's already purchased from donations.
Correct.
And I don't know about baseball.
His money is coming into it, yeah. Baseball, it's gonna be a duel, it's gonna be,
Yeah.
both- yeah, softball and baseball will share a scoreboard.
What are they gonna do on nights? when
So-
they both have-
No, it's both sides.
It's
Both
two-sided.
somebody goes up there and.
That's a, and visually like, ooh,
We're gonna get really cheap and we're just gonna have the flip.
that's what I was waiting for you to say. Build this whole thing and then get the little flip cards. Somebody standing up there putting a little thing on the clip.
It's a good job for you, you need that one.
Yeah, you think about
Baseball and
it,
softball.
technically what you're doing is you're doing 3 projects, and you did it over 3 years. You're just doing it all in one year.
We were planning on doing it too. I mean, basically, all this was gonna be done too, just,
And but we just added the lights to it, you know. We're doing it now, which makes sense.
that is in the works right now.
I'm sorry.
Close.
Quotes for everything, so
Well,
we
hasn't
know.
gotten anything.
Well, yeah, basically what Wold has said is because it's done this summer, they need to issue this project by the end of next week.
Yes.
So
And that's why we had to do it.
Yeah. to get the work done by this summer, they need to issue the project by next week. Or this week, I'm sorry, Thursday, Friday, this week.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, and then all those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. We're going ahead with the new athletic complex. Budget,
We did not meet.
We got a business manager report.
Missy?
Now, if only we could use some of the food service money to support the
If
athletic.
we had a good business manager, she'd know how to.
I don't think the auditors would think that's kosher. So actually, since
I like the new plan for the money anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So for the last few years, we have been, the food service account, our reserve fund can only run 3 months, we can only have 3 months worth of expenses in our reserve. So for the past few years, we get the letter usually in January from MDE stating we need to spend out X amount of dollars. So last year, our total amount was, I can't find the exact amount, but it was over 200,000 that we needed to spend out. We met with the rep from Aviance and the food service director. And at that time, we had come up with a plan to purchase a new washer and dryer for them, and then that cafe with the smoothies. Those, based on timing, they didn't get done until this school year. So when my letter came in January, it's a total of 306,000, but it's last year and this year's combined, because last year's stuff wasn't posted last year. So we have the new washer and dryer in, we have the cafe. Linnell wanted to order a new combi oven for the kitchen. That's been ordered and I believe it's here and getting installed. She's also come up with a plan for some small wares, which include pots, pans, spoons, any kitchen utensils. And then she'd like to purchase a new convection oven, and that's about 27,000. So with those with the combination of those, it's about 91.5. If there is talk that breakfast and lunch will not be free next year. So we have a proposal out there that maybe we'll offer free breakfast next year, so that could account for about 150,000. So that would help us send that out as well. So if we did the two of them together, so the equipment plus the free breakfast, we're looking at about 270,000 that we would spend down. So we'd have about another 30 to work with that we need to work
I
on.
like the free breakfast. I do. Like, it doesn't
That's
eat
one of
it,
the things
but
that
I
I,
like the.
you know, are you okay with that plan? I think in the time that we're in right now with inflation, cost of gas, I think that would be a great PR for our community and our residents to
Is
say,
lunch free right now too?
it is this year. So the problem with it is we have to come up with a plan B. So let's say we put in that we're gonna offer free breakfast. And then they come back and say it's free again. Well, now what's plan B for that $150,000? So we're trying to come up with,
So can you, if they do free breakfast, can you do lunch?
we
Yeah,
have to
that's
come
what
up with another way of how we're gonna spend another $150,000.
Because
How much
if they
is
do,
lunch?
because they could do free breakfast and not free lunch, should we offer them free lunch?
Yeah,
And if they go both, then
they'll probably
we have
do
to
both.
brainstorm.
My guess is they do one, they'll do both.
I'm game if they, I love the idea if they offer, let's say it doesn't go that way, if they don't offer free breakfast, we do that second plan as lunch, and then I don't know.
The
I
problem
don't know,
with,
the third plan.
the problem with lunch is, I don't think, lunch is $290, so I don't think we would have enough money to do lunch.
But maybe we could do a portion of it.
That's what I was gonna, yeah, make the lunches instead of $290, make them $90.
Yeah, we could
I'm
have-
game.
Where we
that-
cover
I
a
think
portion
that
of
much
it.
of
how
a
many
portion of it.
kids- Everybody's here for lunch. I think so many kids are great.
We had, just FYI, we've had like almost every one of our elementary kids is taking free breakfast.
I would.
Yes.
We've had over 500 kids taking breakfast every day in elementary.
I'm game for all
Yeah,
So that's,
that's why I said, I like this plan,
Yeah.
spending the money down.
that. Now, if they're
So-
both free, I don't know what to tell you, because that's a lot of money.
I was trying to think of like,
Dinner parties?
I was trying to think, Riley and I were coming up with lunch wagons,
Yeah, that's,
brick oven pizza on a mobile cart, so we could have pizza once a month on a,
That'd be great.
special pizza days, and, we're trying to come.
yeah,
how do you
could we
spend it?
offer like incentives like that, pizza parties for your whichever class this week?
The problem with it
Pass
is it
this.
has to fit, it's gotta fit the serving thing,
Yeah.
you can't just, you still gotta fit
You can't
the,
buy, ice cream sundaes for everybody on such and such a day.
so that's the problem with it,
Very-
yeah, it's
very
still
good.
gotta fit the requirements of a meal, you can't say, hey, we're gonna give you,
And
so
it's
it-
just meals, or it was equipment too?
it's equipment, yeah.
Is there any specialty equipment that we are going to be needing? And,
Well, we're gonna
Rebuy?
salad bar, we
Yeah.
bought a salad bar for the elementary.
because I mean, in all honesty, if we order it now, it might be here in 5 years.
Good point.
We can pay for it, we can prepay it, it'll just be brand new, we can order all the equipment.
Yeah, Linnell's putting her head together trying to figure out what,
How's the coffee smoothie bar?
Going over
It's going over very well.
with students and teachers, or mainly?
I think it's mostly students, but
Okay.
I know
I
it's.
think Wade would love to have a smoothie bar in the middle school.
Oh, absolutely, no comment.
He looks super excited.
I'm gonna guess somebody spilled down there and it didn't go over.
Well,
very
I know Mr. Smith would love to have it in the elementary school.
I'm sure
too.
he would.
I said a couple people the other day.
Let's just say the middle school principal and the elementary school principal aren't seeing eye to eye on the smoothies.
That's a lot of money. I guess, can we have those be some thoughts and?
We're still working on it, yeah. Linnell and I are trying to come up. So-
We like the
But-
free breakfast.
And even
And
free
then
lunch if we
not-
can do it.
Because they used to offer free breakfast back when my older two were came to school, and you still had to pay lunch. So they could go back to that,
I think that's.
Or even reduce lunch.
or yeah, and then,
Okay,
or reduce it if
that's
we
what
don't
we
have
need to
money to
do
cover
now.
the whole thing.
Okay, well, and if we still gotta come up with a plan B or C if
Yeah.
they offer, and I don't know what that's gonna be for 200.
Well,
I really
can
suck at
bring
following
some-
through, but
come up
I
with
am
something.
We can give it
Yeah.
back, I guess.
We can spend money.
We'll get
We'll
some.
Yeah,
spend
I
it
can-
somehow.
I figure
The silly part about it is we can't use, so if we buy, say, the combi oven, and if we have to do any plumbing or electrical to.
You can't pay for that.
We can't
You can't
use
use the
them
money
for
for
that.
that?
No.
Okay. Nobody else.
It can't be
knows
anything
what that kind of
structural.
oven is? That's awesome.
A convection?
No, not the convection oven, that's not the one you were talking about, the what?
The combi oven.
A combi oven.
What's that?
Thank you. I thought I was the only one, I knew what the convection
Maybe it's a
oven
baker
was.
and a, maybe it's like, yeah, convection and regular.
I don't know,
So
but
it's a
Vanilla
combi.
oven.
Mine has both of them, so that's what I have at home?
I'm not sure.
Sheriff, all right.
I
Just
can tell you how much it costs, but I don't know what it does.
Okay.
Alright,
Cool. Anything else?
I was just gonna touch on budget status, so we're about 75% of the way through the school year already. Crazy as it sounds, actually all of our fiscal year, not just the school year. So at budget, we are about 63%, which may sound a little low, but we have to take into consideration, we pay teacher salaries for July and August as well. It's still accounted for in this budget, but when you're looking at 75% of your budget, you got those two salary pieces. So, but I think we're doing okay, we're on track. ESSER funding, we're still spending ESSER 2 funding right now. So we were granted $384,994. To date, we have drawn $270,000, and I plan to do the next draw on March 31st. So the last draw was the beginning of January. So we're spending that down. We have some summer grants that we'll be using for the summer school program this summer. COVID testing, we got some COVID testing dollars, which we'll be using for anything COVID related for this school year, anything that we can reallocate to that fund. Some pandemic enrollment loss, so there's grants, there's money out there that we can reallocate some funds to that will help our general fund at the end of the year. So that's where that's at.
Anything else?
That's all for me.
Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns for Missy?
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, moving on to other, in addition to the agenda, which was the essential pay discussion on the Paul Bunyan Education Co-op and possible action.
I handed out an email that I received from Margaret Skelton, our attorney. A few months back, we tabled and then we decided not to pay the essential payment for Paul Bunyan employees, that's $1,700 for that essential payment for those folks. Their attorney for Paul Bunyan discussed that memo of understanding that they had with those folks from Brainerd, with our attorney, and Margaret reviewed that MOU. She responded to me this week with this email, and I just handed it out to you. So you read that email from Margaret. That MOU, after she reviewed it, does not constitute any illegal gift. There does not appear to be an obligation to pay that additional fund as outlined by the MOU from Brainerd. But Pillager could make the decision to do so. Also, as I understand, the additional funds would go to licensed employees. It is also my understanding the school board previously provided additional ESSER funds to licensed employees. Payments of these funds does not in any way obligate Pillager to pay those funds to unlicensed employees to open up other contracts. So we could look at that Paul Bunyan piece again if you so choose, because she reviewed that piece of MOU that we once looked at a few months ago, because we were concerned about opening up those contracts because of that piece. So
did we tell Paul Bunyan no, and then Paul Bunyan's lawyer got involved and talked to our lawyer?
yes, because we had that concern of opening up the contract with others because it was an additional contract. And then we also had some concerns because it was an MOU, and that MOU, that the way that they wrote their MOU, we had some concerns with how they worded it as well, because it was for past work. I think it was how it was brought up. So
So is the concern that the Paul Bunyan, okay, so the Paul Bunyan Co-op is in the Brainerd District, Pillager District, any other district?
Yeah, there's 5 schools.
Okay, so did all 5 schools pay other than just us, or are we the only school that didn't?
I don't know that. I don't know if Aitken's paying, I don't know if,
We need a motion on.
I'm sorry.
I'll make that motion,
I'll second.
What's our motion?
just to discuss it.
Oh, just we have a
Oh,
motion
okay.
to discuss it?
somebody wants their motion.
Like,
Tell you,
what is the motion?
a motion.
We just have a motion.
Well, we can make we gotta make the decision. I'll make the motion that we,
Discuss it.
discuss it.
Well, and that's, I would rather discuss it because I'll be honest, I'm not sure I vote yes, but we need a motion to discuss
I
it.
guess the motion would be to pay the $1,700 in essential pay.
We can vote that, you can vote down, even if you make. the
I'll
motion.
make that motion that we pay it.
I'll second.
Okay, now we can continue.
Okay, so the total amount of dollars, it would be $1,700?
$1,700 for the Paul Bunyan essential pay.
How many people are there? I guess.
I was expecting you to tell me a lot more money.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not,
no,
it's only the
and that's
percent.
why we were like, oh, well, yeah, why wouldn't we when it came up the first time?
It's divided amongst all the
Everybody
school
else.
districts in Paul Bunyan, and it's based off of a percentage of. Brainerd paid like 65% of it, and the other school districts, it was divided equally based off the percentage of.
Oh,
Yes.
so it was calculated
Right.
for all the school districts that you mentioned?
Yes,
But
Pillager
some of
share
them
would
are
be
not
this.
paying
right.
because they did not give their teachers anything and they
Right.
weren't going to give these licensed employees anything. either. So
Well,
no, not everybody.
I don't know that. I'd have to find out, and I
From
could
what I'm
find out.
told,
Right.
not everybody paid.
Yeah.
I would name a school, but I'm not
Yeah.
gonna throw them that.
That they chose, or they're
They
doing the
didn't
same
get
thing as
it.
us, rediscussing it or
They
something?
didn't even, they didn't do it to their teachers and they weren't doing it
Oh.
for me, so they just.
So
That was the last I had heard. I hadn't talked to those schools about it.
So the $1,700, if we were to pay it, would that come out of the ESSER?
Yes, sir, it would come on as, correct.
That
Uh,
ESSER two that you just talked about.
Yeah, it could be ESER 2 or ESER 3.
Could be either one, yeah.
So if, the EAs say got together and got a lawyer that read their contract, that's how they'd get their money, because we said no based on the fact that the other people weren't getting it either. They were outside contracts, everything else around here is outside contracts, they all did extra work. But because these ones had a lawyer that called on their behalf, we're rediscussing it, so I
How
don't
would
see
the
any
EAs
difference to
fall?
this month than when we
They're-
voted it
they're
down the last time,
subcontractors.
other than their
They're
lawyer
not
got
a
involved.
school employee.
They're not, yeah.
They're not
What
our
about
employees.
TAs, what would Margaret say about that? Would that be-
Well, the reason why, based off of we paid the other, our teachers, the way it was written, how we paid the other ones, it was paid to licensed TRA members.
Yep.
And Paul Bunyan employees are licensed TRA employees.
But EAs.
EAs are
But EAs
not.
are not, right, so
Right.
they
Nobody else
still are out. They couldn't
But-
get a lawyer and come to us also? That's what we're talking about, right?
Well, my point is, because the way we voted it down last time was because they were on an outside contract.
And we have how many other outside?
And we have all other outside contracts, and they all deserve the bonus, and we have money that we could get them. And say Brainerd, they hired their EAs under their staff contract, so they got paid, they got a bonus also. Might not have been, I don't know what the amount was, but they got a bonus. Because ours are on an outside contract, we did not pay them like that. So when we go, well, Brainerd gave Paul Bunyan Co-op a bonus, great, they also gave their EAs a bonus. I just think a lot of people did a lot of extra work also, but we're only focusing on ones that have licenses here and a lawyer.
But it still would be illegal to open an outside contract, or Margaret would still say, no, you can't open an outside contract and pay your EAs also? Is that true? This is just about
You could gift it.
Paul Bunyan.
No.
No, you
Yeah,
can't.
it's just about.
This
This
email,
one's about
This
Paul
email's
Bunyan.
about.
yeah, so I wondered if this, whatever we did with this, how that would affect what the EAs,
I I understand Sarah's point, and I agree with Sarah's point in the sense where we're unique in the sense where we have outside contracts with other employees.
But is it true that Margaret would say you can't do
Margaret-
anything to the EAs? That's what that's what we were told at first. So that would still hold true. This email has nothing to do with that, so that must still hold true. Is that how you guys are understanding this?
Yes, we're not touching any other outside
Right.
contract
Other than that.
except this
This
one, because their lawyer explained it different.
I would probably agree with that. Their lawyer probably talked to him about the MOU and not about our outside contracts.
Yes.
So I would tend to agree with you there, sir. I would say,
And I'm still not saying that they don't deserve it.
I agree.
It's just,
It's just, to me, it's
Right.
kind of elitist.
You're probably safer in the sense where, because of our situation,
I wouldn't say elitist, I would say more along the lines of, we don't wanna open that can of worms.
I just feel like
We
it's
keep it
not
consistent.
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
To the other outside contracts.
Yeah. And the only reason I say elitist is because this group
This
has a
one.
lawyer and the rest of them don't.
I see where you're coming from. I
That's
just wanna
where I
be
meant the
clarified. Yep.
elitist. Not that I think they are. Because I mean, we didn't even give it to our district employees, we only gave it to teachers.
no, you're absolutely correct.
So
Missy and
Yeah.
Al
I'm
and
guessing
Todd
they didn't
and
do any extra work this whole time.
they haven't done anything. So, correct.
Not yet, well, we-
Yeah. So, we have a motion on the table, and a second. We can bring it to a vote. Or we can rescind it if we.
Or just, or just vote and say nay, or vote and
Yeah, we can vote, and whoever wants to, we can vote, you can vote either way you want. I don't know whichever one.
I say nay.
So, all those in favor? All those opposed? Sorry to them. Superintendent report.
all right.
It's not
Madam
more
Chair.
than $1,700 talking to lawyers.
Agreed.
No, that's what elitist attitude.
Yeah, right.
Spend it.
No school this Thursday or Friday. Just a reminder for that. Polar plunge tomorrow for Special Olympics.
Where is that at?
Right out in the
parking lot. They have a mobile one now.
Are they ever going to move it back to the lake? Because I'll be honest, the
I don't think they
lake was
will,
better.
because I think it's,
Yeah, the lake was, and the other schools came there, didn't they?
Yeah.
yeah.
And now,
They found that I think it's easier for schools to do it on site, and they don't have to transport kids, and it's less
I can
liability,
see, yeah,
and,
I can see that.
No.
It's boring.
Region Day, I have a superintendent Region Day at Capitol, March 30th, with other region superintendents to go. There are a ton of bills. There are some that are a lot of funding bills, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this legislative session. Beauty and the Beast, April 8th through 10th. It's going on here, so if you haven't got your tickets for that. Part of that is also Ed Foundation Dinner on April 9th with the Pro Start program, so if you are aware for that. I'd like to congratulate Pro Start teams with Jenny Wise and Tom Cavanaugh. We did enter 2 teams. They came back with a second and third place, so congratulations to them. Robotics regional competition is going on this week in Grand Forks, 25th and 26th. And then we have the Arbor Day celebration next month on April 29th from 11 to 1:30. So our community members can come and do their plant sale. So that's always a big hit. Any community members that want to come and recycle their pots or their baskets, they can drop them off behind the school by the greenhouses. So that's always a big event. That's always well attended. So we're excited to have that back in person like normal. So
That's awesome.
that is, I believe, all I have.
All right. Anybody have anything else? All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
What'd you say?
Second.
Oh. Yeah, he said stupid meeting.
No,
I thought, I thought.
It wasn't that bad. It was way better than our facility meeting.
Go on, no kidding. Is the camera still on?
Yes.
Let's cut that one.